Hoop Heads podcast is brought to you by Head Start Basketball.
Hello, Hoop Heads. This is Alan Stein Jr. My new book, Raise Your Game, High Performance Secrets from the Best of the Best, will be available from all major book retailers on January 8th. Raise Your Game takes a rare peek behind the curtain and shows you what the top coaches and players in the game do during the unseen hours. I share their routines, rituals, and habits, as well as proven strategies that you can implement with your team immediately. If you want to maximize your coaching impact and influence, order your copy today at raiseyourgamebook.com. And in the spirit of the holidays, if you're interested in purchasing multiple copies for your coaching staff, team, or program, I am offering several bonuses, like a 40% discount, signed copies, and a private video call with your team. But you'll have to place your order before Christmas. Once again, go to raiseyourgamebook.com for everything you need.
Basketball is a very reactionary sport. So much stuff that could go on in any given second or moment. And obviously, but hopefully all the practice and stuff like the motion and the offense and the stuff like that, that's already ingrained in you. You don't really have to think about it. You just do it. You know what to do. But you still have to react to it. Whereas golf, there's no really reaction to anything. I mean, you react to the shot you just hit.
Professional golfer Ben Curtis won the 2003 British Open and in the process became the first golfer since 1913 to win a major in his first attempt. Ben grew up only 50 yards from the practice putting green of Mill Creek Golf Course in Ostrander, Ohio, where his grandfather built the course and his father is currently the superintendent. Ben started playing golf at age 3, won the Division II state golf title his junior and senior years of high school in Ohio, was a 3-time All-American at Kent State University, and was the #1 ranked amateur when he turned pro in 2000. He won 3 more tournaments on the PGA Tour after the British Open and earned nearly $14 million during his career. Following his retirement from tournament golf in 2017, Ben became even more deeply involved in 3 ventures, each with a different focus. The Ben Curtis Family Foundation was founded by Ben and his wife Candace in 2013. The mission of the Ben Curtis Family Foundation is to help alleviate childhood hunger. Numerous studies have shown that when children go to school on a full stomach, they are better able to focus on what they're learning in the classroom. Based on this knowledge, the foundation developed the Birdie Bag program to help feed school children in the Kent Public Schools and other surrounding communities where Ben and his family currently reside. The Ben Curtis Golf Academy is designed for middle school, high school, and college golfers looking to advance and succeed at the next level. Each student will have a fully customized program built to their specific golf goals. Ben has also started his own wine label, Fairway and Vines, that is available online and in wine stores nationwide. You can subscribe to the Hoopheads podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, or SoundCloud. By subscribing and leaving us a 5-star rating and review, you help more of the basketball community find our show. Thank you for listening. We hope you enjoy this slight detour from our regular basketball-only conversations as we talk with 2003 British Open champion Ben Curtis about what it takes to succeed as a professional athlete.
Hello and welcome to the Hoopheads podcast. It is Mike Klinzing here with my co-host Jason Sunkel, and tonight we are going to change gears a little bit from our normal track, and we are talking to Ben Curtis, fellow Kent Stater and former British Open champion. Ben Curtis, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Yeah, good to be here. Good to be with you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you on and get a chance to pick your brain about your athletic career, but also some of the things that you have going now since you've retired from golf. So we're excited to get a chance to dig into all those things. And we're going to go back and start out by asking you how you got into the game of golf first as a kid.
Well, it's actually an interesting story. So my grandfather, he was a teacher and a baseball coach in high school, at a high school level, down at just south of Columbus. And he kind of not got bored with it, but he wanted to live on a farm. So he found a farm land in Ostrander, Ohio, just northwest of Columbus, about 20, 30 miles or so. And he found the perfect land. He decided to build a golf course. And so he built that 9 holes in 1974. And then in 1977, the year I was born, he opened the second 9 to make it 18 holes. So it's just a little public golf course, 6,300 yards at the longest. And my dad's been the only superintendent that's been there. So he's been there since 1974 when he graduated high school. And then I lived right behind the 18th hole until I was about 11 or 12, and then we moved a couple miles away. My dad wanted to get away a little bit, but instead of being right on it. But
he didn't want to stare at his job all day.
Yeah, no. I mean, literally, it was like 50 steps to his shop. Where all the mowers and all that was, and the practice putting green, and then obviously the clubhouse was just on the other side, and my mom worked in there. And my mom was one of 5 sisters, so they all worked in there. A couple of them moved away later on, but it was just a full family affair. And I was just very fortunate. I had older cousins that played the game. I had a lot of friends, obviously, growing up in the area that played the game. So I was very fortunate to start off at age to be able to play like that.
Yeah, for sure. How did you? What's your earliest memory of getting out on the course and hitting balls? Were you just kind of playing like obviously basically the course was your backyard pretty much. So at what age do you really have your first memories of getting out and getting around the course?
Yeah, when I was like 5 and 6 is that's kind of when I started playing tournament golf. 9 holes here and there, stuff like little local stuff. But that's when it really started to, because my cousin, who ended up playing college golf, but he was about 7 years older. So he was, 13, 14 and becoming quite a good player himself. And so that's really what I remember. And then I remember going to, Memorial was 15, 20 minutes away. In our backyard. So obviously, and obviously growing up watching Jack play as well, being from Central Ohio area, and obviously he was such a big icon, not just for the golf in general, but obviously, in our local area. And here you go. And so I was just at it. That's when I really met. I mean, my parents couldn't get me off the golf course. So it was one of those, they would, the story is, I don't remember this, but I think I was like 3 or 4, and they, one day put me to bed, and then, they go to check on me before they went to bed, and they find me on the putting green out back. So in the dark in my pajamas. So that just shows you how much I was really into the game at an early age, kind of like what you see with, like, you hear stories about LeBron and that with basketball.
So you talk about how much you really loved the game of golf. Did you play any other sports, or was golf basically your sole focus because you loved it so much?
It was always my main focus, but I played baseball up until high school, and then I did play basketball through my high school. So, obviously growing up, up here, and back then they didn't have the indoor facilities like they do now. So, so I played basketball throughout the whole winter time. And then, I found that baseball, because it was a spring sport, that kind of got in the way as I got older. Not so much when I was a young kid, because it was in the summer and the evenings and stuff. But when I, got to right around the middle school age, it became harder because baseball was a spring sport, and I wanted to be out on the golf course.
And obviously golf was your main thing. So what was it about the game from a kid's perspective that you really enjoyed? What was it that made you gravitate to golf? Obviously you had, the family experience and the golf course in your backyard, and I'm sure that played an influence. But, regardless of that, when you get out there on the course and you're playing and you're 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years old, what was it that made you think, wow, this is something that, I really love to do? What was it about the game of golf?
Well, what I found, and I think from such an early age, it's such a hard game, as everybody knows, and it was such a big challenge, and and I could find a lot of different ways. There wasn't just one way to how to hit a golf ball or how to putt or how to, and I think from an early age, I saw it. I don't know what it was about it, but I just saw that there's something unique about this game that, you know, you don't have to just do it. Everybody doesn't have to do it the same way. And, you know, there's so many different ways you can go. You could be long, you could be powerful, you could be, you know, short and more accurate, you know, so there was a lot of different things. And plus the social side of it. I mean, obviously having older cousins and seeing them out there and, you know, watching them and play and seeing them, how they did it was a big influence on me. And then, you know, being a competitor, you know, wanting to beat them at such a young age.
Right.
And you know, my dad too, you know, I think I was 9 years old when I beat him for the first time. And, you know, he said he would quit golf if I beat him. And, you know, I don't know what it was. It's just somebody, if they gave me a challenge, it just did spark something inside me to make me want to go out there and achieve and accomplish something.
Do you think part of it was, and this is a question that I think, you know, I'm trying to apply it to my own situation, like with basketball. One of the things that I really loved about the game of basketball was that, you know, I mean, I love to play in a 5-on-5 against an opponent, but one of the things I really liked about it was that I could go out by myself and improve. And since my drive in a lot of cases was stronger than, let's say, my friends or my teammates, it allowed me to be out on the court still working and improving. Is that something that for you, the fact that you could go out and hit balls and work on your game on your own, in addition to the social piece of it that you described, was that ability to practice on your own? Do you think that was a factor in you, you know, really enjoying the game?
Yeah, exactly. And I try to tell people all the time, like, this is how you know you love a game, is that this is back before driving ranges. Like, I had to go find my own golf balls to hit. We had a field basically with driving. And then there was a little green my dad made because he saw me out there all the time. And, you know, I put a stick in the ground or something and I would hit towards it and all that. And so I think, you know, it's kind of like watching Tin Cup, you know, or some of those movies. Like,
right.
You know, it's hard to describe to somebody, because if I tell my kids to go do that today, I'm like, hey, we live on a lot of acres here. It's like, go out there and have some fun and, you know, go hit the ball. Well, what's the fun of that? There's no green. I'm like, well, I used to. It's kind of like, you know, it's kind of like the cardboard boxes we used to play with. Now the kids got the computers and the phones and all that. But, you know, I think that's how I truly loved the game, was because, you know, it was so much fun to be able to go out there and do something different and always have that challenge, right? I mean, it's just like you could always get better at free throws or 3-point shots or whatever it may be. And, you know, and that was the thing I used to do all the time. I used to, you know, how many times can I hit the green from this distance with this club or whatever, or with this wind, and that's the thing, being outside too, you know, every day was different. You had different, you know, conditions and stuff like that. So there's always a unique challenge out there, and I really enjoy doing that.
Right. It's a lot of internal competition with yourself, I'm sure, as you're trying to strive to improve. You know, you're out there and you're saying, hey, you know, I got to work on, again, whatever the particular shot might be, or distance or club that you're working on. You can do that, as you described, in so many different ways, and just challenge yourself and look at where was I a week ago? Where was I, you know, 6 months ago? And just seeing yourself improve.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you know, the hardest thing, you know, as I got older, and you start to hear it's not what, hey, Mike and Jay, we could go out there and play a match, right? It's not me. It's me against you, but it's also us against the golf.
I don't want to play a match against you, Ben. I don't want to play a match against you. I don't think. Please no.
Although my game's not very good right now, so you might have a good chance.
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
But anyway, yeah, and that's the thing. That's the beauty of golf, is that you have these other variables. You have the weather. Obviously different golf courses, different continents, the elevation changes, you know, all that good stuff that goes into it, that there's always a challenge. And, you know, we always say it's not how good I'm playing, it's how good, you know, the course is beating me up, or how good I'm, you know, taking advantage of the golf course. And obviously the better you play and the more confidence you have, the better you're going to play. but sometimes, the course gets the better of you, and you got to realize, especially coming down the heat, it's still, I'm trying to beat my opponent here when we're coming down at the end of the round or into the tournament. But at the same time, I got to be careful that I got to play the shot that is required, not think about, okay, he's over here doing this and I'm here. It's no, I got to worry about what I need to do to try to get as few strokes as possible.
All right, so you talked about like you kept trying to improve your game as a kid and things like that. When did you start to think, okay, maybe I can make this a profession? Maybe I can get into the professional golf game?
I always had the dream of doing it, but it wasn't until college. It wasn't until after my freshman year, and everybody has a dream, right? Like my 12-year-old wants to play in the NBA, but I'm going to have to tell him, you're not going to spoil it for him, right? You want him to work hard and try to go do that, right? But it wasn't until I was in college that did it become somewhat a reality. Obviously I had a good freshman year in college, but each year as I played, I got more interest from agents and things like that, and I accomplished more and was playing, competing against the best players on the amateur circuit and having some success. So that was kind of when, like, hey, I can really do this if I work hard at it. But yeah, before that, it was always just a dream, and there's so many things that could happen, and so many things there's so many good players even in college that I played with that hey, they had a lot more talent than I did. They accomplished maybe a lot more and at the amateur level, but when it comes to a lot of it's luck when you get to the pro. It's especially in golf, it's playing good at the right time. You've all heard about Q school, correct? I mean, that.
Yeah. I have a friend that's gone through Q school 3 or 4 times, and I've caddied for him before, and I've heard the nightmare stories. I've heard them.
Yeah, and I mean it's one of those things. You could play good from January through August, but when the Q school starts up in September or October, and you have one bad week and you don't advance, then your season's over and you don't have that possibility of making it to the tour. So it's all about getting your game ready for the right time of the year. You hear guys, especially around major times, they talk about, hey, I'm just trying to get my game at top performance when the Masters come around, or when the U.S. Open or British Open or the PGA comes around, or when the Ryder Cup's on. But yeah, that's what you're trying to do. But a lot of times you can't think about it too much. Then by the time those tournaments come around, you're like, hey, I got to get my game ready for this. That you've actually made your game worse. So I think if you think about the process being, I'm just going to try to get better today, so tomorrow I'll have a better day.
Yeah, I think that process is a huge piece of just about any sport that you're going to be participating in. If you worry about the results and you worry about, am I going to win this tournament? How am I going to shoot? What's my score have to be this round? Instead of focusing shot by shot, I think you probably get yourself in trouble, is my guess. Let's jump back to your high school time and your recruitment and your choice to go to Kent. So can you talk a little bit about how that process went, what ultimately factored into you going to Kent? I have a pretty good guess, but I'll let you tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, it was a crazy time. Obviously, being in a small town and I went to a high school that didn't produce a lot of successful athletes, I should say. So that whole process of getting recruited was a totally new ball game, especially for my parents, because obviously a couple of my cousins went to college, but they weren't getting quite recruited like I was. So it was a big learning curve and a stressful time, but also a very fun time. And I visited Ohio State, Kent State. When I had an event near Virginia, so I toured around the campus there. I went to Florida Southern, Minnesota, and that was it. And so when I went to, I obviously visited all of them, and and I kind of narrowed down to 3 schools. It was between Ohio State, Kent State, and Florida Southern. And Florida Southern, their coach, Coach Gordon, his father was the Ohio Wesleyan golf coach, and they played at our home course, so I knew him quite well, just growing up throughout the years. And then obviously Ohio State had a great program, and my grandfather was good friends with the head coach there. And then when ultimately it came down to why I chose Kent State was because there's a couple things. One, I wanted to kind of get away a little bit. I didn't want to be at Ohio State. I felt like I would be home most weekends. So I wanted to kind of live on my own, experience, kind of college life. And number 2, Herb Page was probably the number 1 factor. Just had a great relationship with him right from the beginning. I could always talk to him about anything, and I just felt very comfortable with him. And then the third one was probably I knew several of the guys on the golf team, and I felt really comfortable around them. And I've obviously played a lot junior and amateur golf with them. So those 3 things were probably the biggest factor.
What was it about Coach Page that you really liked that allowed you to connect with him?
Herbie's he could talk to anybody. I don't know if you guys had a chance to meet him. I mean,
yeah, I've had a chance to meet him and talk to him before. So he's a very neat guy. I mean, I don't know him well, but I've had a couple conversations with him here and there.
Yeah, I just he made you feel such at home. There's no bullshit to him, really. I mean, yeah, he could talk to anybody about anything, but where you stand with Herbie, and that's the greatest thing with him. And what I found through him was especially throughout the years, was just the relationships he's built with all his former players. And even to this day, we talk, at least a couple times a month, or I see him quite a bit because he lives in Kent as well. So just see him around town and with the golf team helping out. So yeah, I could go to him about anything, and he feels like he's kind of like a second father to a lot of us and a lot of us guys. And when I came he took us to Rockneys was the place to go back then. And
yep.
And that was, we were sitting in there, and I'm like, this is where I'm going to go. Well, yeah, obviously I said that when I was at Ohio State too, but you're sitting there with the kids on campus, like, yeah, I'm going to go here. This is really cool, but when it came down to it, it just always came back to Herb Page. But he's so much fun. He's like a big kid, he even though he was, in his 50s at the time, or 40s or 50s at the time, he felt like he was one of us.
What do you remember? What's your most fond memory of your time at Kent on the golf course?
Wow. I mean, there's so many. I mean, it's so funny. Like Herb and he goes, why do you always remember the bad stuff? But it's not really bad, but just one of those things. Like I remember, going out to Windmill and it's snowing outside like it was today. And you're out there chipping, having a chip and putt. And you're like, what are we doing?
Yeah, why are we here?
We're not going to play a tournament in this.
Yeah. But actually, we did play a tournament at Quail Hollow where they used to have the web event over there on the far east side of Cleveland, and we played in the snow one year in the MAC conference. And
hope you had the orange. I hope you had the Dayglow golf balls out for that one.
Oh man, it was so bad. They took the roller. You know how sometimes when it gets wet, they take those rollers and brush off the water. They were doing it with the snow.
I don't know how that worked, but
so he goes and he's just laughing because see, practicing the snow. Look what it's done for you, and you're just like, but it's just a lot of that. And then obviously when I between my junior and senior year at Pebble Beach, I made it to the semis of the U.S. Amateur, and he flew out on I think it might have been, I don't know. He flew all the way across the country just to watch me play in the semifinals match because no one at Kent at that time has made it that far. So, and I've heard story. He did it with Corey Connors a few years ago. He asked me to go, but I couldn't go. But he drove down with 3 other guys. He got in a car and drove down to Atlanta because Corey was in the finals of the USAM when he was playing for Kent. So that's just the type of guy he is, and he'll do anything for one of his players. And you guys should get him on your show one time and have him tell some stories about his hockey and football days when he was here at Kent. So
that'd be great. That would be great. We would love that.
I don't know if you know this, but he played with Saban and Gary Pinkel, who used to be at Missouri, and then Jack Lambert, who played for the Steelers, obviously a long time Hall of Famer.
Right.
And
it's kind of amazing, that team.
Oh yeah, and then he played for Don James, so who went on to Washington and won a national championship or 2 there. So yeah, just have him tell you some stories about some of them travel days. I mean, back when they bust everywhere, and it's such a cool, and he's such a, even though he's Canadian, he's a Kent Stater. I mean, he's the blue and gold, all,
no
everything
question
about him is Kent State. But he loves it here, and Kent State's really lucky to have him.
It's amazing, Kent football, just to jump back to that from a team standpoint, in terms of their record, I mean, they've just been obviously
obsolete,
terrible to be kind, and yet at the same time, you look at the number of NFL players that have come out of Kent in the time since you and I have been there, and before that. I mean, it's
Cribbs and Edelman, right? Edelman came out of Kent State.
I mean, it's crazy the number of guys that have gone on to play in the NFL when you consider what the team's overall record is as a whole. It's kind of incredible. And then Antonio Gates coming out of basketball to, he's obviously going to be an NFL Hall of Famer. So it's just one of those things that anytime I sit back and I think about Kent State football, which honestly isn't very often, but at the same time, it's kind of amazing that they've produced as many NFL players as they have.
Yeah, when you watch, even like you watch TV now, I mean, it's just, you watch a game and there's, every now and then you're like, man, that's a Kent State guy. And
right. How does that happen? Right, exactly.
How did we win? I think we won 1 game. I think when I was in school, I went to 3 games, and 2 of them were when Randy Moss played. So,
all right, there you go.
We just wanted to see this guy run,
Yeah, I didn't go to many more than that. I might have went to 1 a season. I think my freshman year, I think they won 3 games, and they may have won 1 the rest of the time I was there. So, there's not a storied tradition of football, unfortunately, and I know they keep trying to work at it, but they haven't quite figured it out yet. So, at any rate, let's move on from the glorious tradition of Kent State football and get back to talking.
I got you all sidetracked. Sorry,
that's all right.
That's the nice part about the format. We can just go off on whatever tangent we want and talk about anything. So there's no producer in our ear steering us back to any particular topic.
Just the 2 of us.
So it's nice. If Jason starts poking me, then I'll know that we're really off. Yeah. I'll know we're really off task. So you get done at Kent and you start looking at your professional career. Can you describe a little bit about what that process looked like when you went from your amateur days to your professional days?
Wow. Well, it was very nerve-wracking, just like when you're choosing a college, but this is like real-world stuff. So it was a little bit different for me than most guys go through because I had such a good run my senior year, and then after my senior year, before I turned pro, where I was the number 1 ranked amateur in the world. So I kind of was getting recruited almost like college again by agents and stuff. So it was a different process, and so that took up a lot of the time late after my senior year where I was home and I spent a lot of time just figuring out what I was going to do or when I was going to turn and who I was going to choose as an agent to represent me to moving forward. And that was very nerve-wracking, but ultimately made the right decision with IMG, and they had a lot of power with obviously being from Cleveland, but with the tour and other things. So that was a great opportunity, and then obviously set myself up for Q school that year. I didn't make it through, but yeah, it was just they were instrumental in helping me find a place to play and where guidance and kind of along the lines like, hey, think about this tour, help me try to get some web starts and tour starts. So it's very nerve wracking. You go from having a pretty good deal in college to all of a sudden, where am I going to get my next meal from? So it was tough, but also, where the reward is down the road. So.
Yeah, so you have a little bit of a unique situation, at least back in the times when you were playing. You never even played nationwide tour golf like regularly, correct?
Right. Yeah, I didn't. So you mean like the web tour?
Yeah, like what the web? It's the what is it? Yeah. You didn't have to. It was the nationwide tour then, correct? I think that's what it was. Yeah, but you didn't even. You just got to completely bypass that.
Q school, you could get. Yeah, when I went to Q school, you could get directed to the tour, and that's how I did it. So, but it wasn't until my third time through that it happened.
Okay.
So, I tried in 2000. Started, I think, September, October, somewhere around there. Made it through first, got to second, just missed out. 2001, same thing. Made it through first. Got disqualified at the second stage. That's another story, but and very devastating because I was actually in line to make it to finals, and then the third year I made it through all three. So, and yeah, I didn't ever do that again. I went through. I mean, it's such a hard thing. Like I said before, you got to make sure that your game is good and you can't have any hiccups. You have a bad few holes or a bad 9 holes, and you could knock yourself right out of it right then and there. And even though, I mean, I think they took about 20 in ties, but you still had to play high golf. So you couldn't just go out there and just roll the ball in the court and win the game, kind of thing. You had to be on your game. So, yeah, it's like I said, it's very grueling. And then also too, the finals was 6 rounds, not 4, like your typical 4 rounds. So it's a marathon. I think we were out, and the year I did it was in Palm Springs. And I think we were there like 10 days. So
you had to pack up the trailer and be out there for a long time.
I mean, and it's over 2 courses, so you alternated. You had 3 on. You played 3 rounds on each course, so you will get out there, and especially being in December, and I came from here, so I wasn't living in Florida or had a place in Florida. I was practicing out of here, so I got out there a couple of days probably before everybody else did because of that.
What do you remember about that time in terms of the shift in how you had to approach the game mentally, from being an amateur to, as you described, being a professional and having to look for, hey, where's my next meal coming from? Do you remember there being a distinct difference in kind of how you approached it, or did you try to approach it in the same way despite the fact that your circumstances had changed?
It was a little bit of both. So, I mean, golf is a very individual sport by nature, but being surrounded by a team, high school and then at the college level, and you're traveling around playing, and I was lucky at Kent. We traveled all over and played in great tournaments, and went to California and Arizona and Texas and Florida, obviously, and all those. But so you travel with the team, but also then during the summer, if I wanted to play in some tournaments, then I had to travel on my own or with some friends or whatever, or teammates. So you kind of learned a little bit of both, how to be a professional, just from the simple fact that I had to set my own schedule in the summer and, get my own travel arrangements and stuff like that. And I think that's the biggest thing you got to do is learn how to manage your time, and then the discipline, like, hey, yeah, I come home for a few days. When can I get my practice in and stuff like that? So you have to kind of balance it out a little bit and understand, and but when you turn pro, then you got January through December to worry about. You got that full season. You're trying to map your schedule out to where, one, you don't overplay, because there is such a thing, because you can burn yourself out. And also you want to make sure that you play enough events. So you got to figure out what's the right number of events for you. Everybody's different. Some guys can play 40 tournaments a year or 40 weeks out of the year. Some guys can only play 18 to 20. So you got to kind of figure out where you stand in that. And I found out that I'm kind of on the lower end. I like to be around the 20 to 25 weeks out of the year. So that's probably the biggest thing you have to learn is, and you got to be, it's hard because you get on tour, you get out there and playing these professional, just sign up and play, but you got to be careful that you don't do that, and you can, make it hard on yourself, and you actually burn yourself out, and you find that you're just going through the motions more than prepping and getting ready for that tournament or these tournaments.
So what did the prep and the downtime look like when you were playing a full schedule for you on the tour? What were you doing during your off weeks, and then what are you doing like when you're playing your 4 rounds of golf and you go out and let's say you play in the morning and you're done by 3 o'clock, and then what do you do from a recovery standpoint to get yourself mentally and physically ready to play again the next day, or in the case of after a tournament, how do you get yourself physically and mentally ready to get back and play the next tournament?
Yeah, so when I was playing, so I'll kind of go back to your first question, like early in the season, like if I would spend a couple weeks getting myself ready. So when I was on tour, I would go to Florida. When we had a place in Florida, I would be down there, and I would spend probably 2 or 3 weeks getting ready for the season. That would probably be 5 to 6 days of good practice, playing a lot of golf. And you would start with your short game, and you would work your way up, because I would always take a month or so, or 2 months off with not touching a club. So it took a little while to get ready. So, and even when I went out the first couple of weeks, I kind of used the West Coast as like a warm up, so to speak. It was kind of get back into the groove of playing again and traveling a bit. But so yeah, I would probably spend 5 to 6 days a week, 6 to 8 hours a day practicing leading up to the first tournament. And then as the season progressed, the weeks off, I would practice and play a little bit less, and I would use it more for recovery and rest. So a typical week maybe in the summer months would have been, on an off week, would have been, maybe 2 days of practice, and maybe 2 days of going to the course, and it could have varied depending on what I needed to get done. Unless I was playing really bad, then I would, if I wasn't comfortable where I was, I'd probably practice more to try to get better. But when I was at the event, a typical week would be you arrive Sunday, Monday, depending on the tournament, where it's at and stuff. And then Monday was usually an off week or off day for me, so it was like a recovery. So if I was playing the week before, I'd like to get there Sunday night, so Monday I could sleep in and maybe get a workout in if I wanted to, but kind of just chill and relax and watch a couple movies or something, just to kind of get my mind off the game, but also let my body recover. And then Tuesday would be mostly 18 holes, a couple hours of practice. Wednesday, if you were in so on the tour they have these ProAms, and if you're in the top 75 to 100 on the money list, then you would probably have to play in the ProAm that week. So that would take place on Wednesday. So Wednesday would be more just 18 holes, a little bit of practice, and then hopefully by the afternoon you're getting yourself ready. So when I played, I would probably work. I had a trainer for about 10 of the 15 years that I was on the tour, and so what I would do is a lot of it I used it for recovery. I wasn't big into working out on the road at tournament. I felt like if I wasn't physically ready, I'm not going to be anyway, but at least the recovery side of it is a lot more like especially as you got older, you got a lot more aches and pains and a lot of joint. For me, it was a lot of neck and shoulder issues. So I would get a lot of soft tissue work done. So I'd probably get 5 to 6, maybe even 7, massages throughout the week. So my trainer was kind of a little bit of both. We would do a lot of recovery work. So the workouts would be more like 10 minutes on the bike, a lot of stretching, and then some physio work just to try to get the body recovered a little bit quicker. So the guys today, they're a lot more different. They work out a lot more and they do all that. So their days are 10 to 12 hours long versus, when I'd like to be out on the, get my stuff done by, especially on practice days, by 2 or 3, and then have an hour break, get some rest time or get back to the hotel for a little bit and then do all the recovery stuff. So yeah, there's a lot more to it, and I think than people realize. Jack Nicklaus was famous for getting massages every day, and I think he was kind of the start of it. And then Tiger obviously was a big influence on the workouts and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think there's just, you look across the board at any sport, and I think there's just more, there's more knowledge out there in terms of, scientifically and what guys should be doing, with their nutrition, with their workouts, with recovery and all that stuff. And I think it's again, if you think back to when you were 20 or I was 20, there certainly wasn't that type of knowledge out there the same way it is today, again, regardless of the sport. So before I ask you a serious question, I want to ask you a relatively funny question. You mentioned about the ProAms. Who's your most memorable Pro-Am person that you played around with in your career?
Oh man, kids, don't listen to this. No, 1 year it was in France. It was right after I won the Open. In September, we went to Paris, and they had the tournament. They don't have it anymore, but it's called the Trophy Lancôme. But they had the face Lancôme. So every year Lancôme would change the face that's on everything that they had, all their makeup stuff. It was the picture, but they had a model, and I got to play with the girl that year. So that was one of them.
Nice. Nothing wrong with that.
So yeah. And she was from Argentina. But yeah, obviously that was a lot of fun. And then also played with Prince William. So it was, or Prince. So I'm getting confused. It's been a while. So it played at St. Andrews with him. So whoever the king is, it was his brother. So
gotcha. Okay,
gotcha. Yeah.
I forget who it is. So it's not the younger guy. He's probably in his 60s or 70s now. So so that was pretty cool because like we woke up, RNA put us up at this building right on the 18th hole at St. Andrews, across the street, and come down for breakfast. It was like a B&B type of thing. Come down and there's the Prince. What's his name? I think it's Prince William. But it would be.
We're gonna trust you. Maybe we'll fact check you after we're done.
That one out. But anyway, my memory on that's bad. I haven't been to England in a couple of years, so I get a little rusty. But I didn't really get to play with a lot of famous athletes and stuff like that. I was always left to Tiger and Phil and all those boys. They always seemed to get get those guys.
Let's take a quick break and hear from our sponsor, Alan Stein Jr.
Hello, Hoop Heads. This is Alan Stein Jr. My new book, Raise Your Game, High Performance Secrets from the Best of the Best, will be available from all major book retailers on January 8th. Raise Your Game takes a rare peek behind the curtain and shows you what the top coaches and players in the game do during the unseen hours. I share their routines, rituals, and habits, as well as proven strategies that you can implement with your team immediately. If you want to maximize your coaching impact and influence, order your copy today at raiseyourgamebook.com.
So you referenced obviously your biggest accomplishment. I mean, I would think you would say that it is winning the Open Championship. But can you just talk about the road that you took to get there? Because when I was doing a little research before, and I didn't realize that it was your rookie season. I don't really remember it, but that was your rookie season, first major, and you hadn't even qualified for it until 2 weeks before. Can you just talk about what it was like to qualify for something 2 weeks beforehand, go to your play in it, and then win the whole thing, and just be like, was it so surreal and you can't believe it? Just kind of talk about that.
Yeah. So back then, and so it was 2003. So obviously it was my rookie year, and I was just still trying to find my way around the tour. How does it all work, and how do you get from 1 week to the next? But they had these series of tournaments where they would take. They didn't have open qualifying over here yet in the United States. They did over there on site the week before in England and Scotland, depending on where the tournament was. But over here, they didn't have it. So to get some players from the U.S. to go over, they would take I think they had 4 tournaments that they would take, I think, 5 guys that weren't already exempt into the Open, and those top finishers would then qualify. So mine was at the Western Open back then in Chicago at Cog Hill, and that's how I got in. So I think I finished like 12th or something, but because the field was pretty loaded up ahead of me, like Tiger, Furyk, VJ, and all those guys were at the top of the leaderboard because I was playing with VJ on Sunday, that they were already exempt. So then it kind of went to the next 5 guys that were exempt. So finishing 12th didn't necessarily take you out of it. It wasn't like you had to finish in the top 5. So that's how I got in. So that was Sunday, and then on Thursday we left to go to the British Open, just to get acclimated with the time change and the surroundings and things like that. Plus, being so close, the St. George's being so close to London, we kind of wanted to spend a day or two there too. So, but the funny story is when I found out Sunday after the Western Open I was getting in, I didn't realize Candace, she tells me I don't have a passport.
Better fast track that, huh?
So I called my agent and said, hey, we don't have a passport. Is there any way, what can we do? So he's like, oh, okay. So he knew somebody in Chicago, so we spent the night in Chicago, and then on Monday he just said, get some cash. So we went and got some cash. We went to this house, and this guy's like, all right. He took our picture and everything, and he goes, I'll have it to you by Wednesday. So we booked our flights for Thursday to fly over to the British, and on Wednesday we got her passport in the mail, so we were able to fly over. And then obviously going there was a whole new experience, and we kind of I really didn't feel much pressure all week until obviously Sunday, but because it was like, hey, this is amazing. I may never get to do this again. I'm just having fun. So I played a practice round on Saturday and Sunday, and then on Monday we took the train and went into London all day, and we toured around and saw all the sights and things like that. And then came back on Tuesday and played our practice round. And then on Wednesday I was playing with Stuart Sink and Chris Smith and what's his name? Anyway, we had a little match going, and after 9 holes, I was like, guys, I'm tired. I'm ready to go. I need to get out of here. So we kind of walked in. We all walked in, and then so just was a very short practice on Wednesday, and then obviously each day I played better and better. I played well on Thursday, Friday, made the cut. Was in the top 25 or so, and then played well on Saturday on the back nine. Had a really good back nine. Got me into about 5th or 6th place, but I was only 2 shots back from the lead. And then obviously on Sunday just got off to a really good start. I think it was 5 under through 11 holes. Jumped up the lead. Obviously had the lead at that point by a couple shots, but I didn't really realize it until I got to the 13th hole when there's a big scoreboard there. And I look over and I'm in the lead. And then all the pressure kind of sunk in right there. It was like, holy shit, basically.
Yeah, right.
And then, but the back nine was very, very difficult, especially those last 5 or 6 holes were very difficult. And so even though I made 4 bogeys coming in, I wasn't the only one. So, so I finished, I made like a 10-footer for par on the last. And then from that point on, everything went super fast. So, obviously the leader, Thomas Bjorn, I was 2 shots back, but once I putted out on 18, then I was tied for the lead, and he still had 17 and 18 to go. So I signed my scorecard, and RNA's pushing me over here. They're taking Candace over here, and if obviously I would do it a lot different now, knowing how everything worked, but then I was just like, yeah. I didn't know. I mean, I was like a deer in headlights, man. Everything went by so fast. It goes so quick, and so they're like, hey, there could be a playoff, so we want you to go to the range. And I'm like, oh, okay. Whereas now I'd be like, no, this is what I want to do.
Right.
But
exactly.
and I understand they kind of want to kind of corner you so they can get the cameras on you and stuff like that. So I went to the range, just kind of just stood around with my caddy, and there's like 15 camera people, and they all got their scopes on you, and you're like, oh man. That was more nerve-wracking than playing golf,
Yeah, probably.
So but it really hit when we landed in Cleveland. That's kind of when it really hit, like, this is a big deal. Like, I understood it was a big deal, but Candace knew it beforehand, because when we got on the airplane to fly home, she's like, they don't do it anymore, but remember how they used to take the trays down the aisle and of all the newspapers?
Yeah. Right.
And especially when you flew international, that's how they did it, but they don't do it anymore. But and she goes, you were on every freaking newspaper that they were showing us. She goes, I knew how big of a deal it was. So yeah, when we landed in Cleveland, it was kind of an eye opener, seeing the whole baggage claim at the airport full of people, and that was kind of like, all right, this is a big deal. So it was a life changer for sure, and it was very difficult to go through. Obviously, if I would have, and I've won 3 times since, and each time it got easier and easier to deal with. So yeah, I would hate to tell somebody, hey, yeah, go win another tournament before you go win a major. But yeah, it was a life changer, but obviously wouldn't change it for the world.
Yeah, for sure. I think one of the things that I'm always fascinated with golf, and it's something that's very different from other sports in terms of you have a lot of time while you're competing where you're kind of just sitting there in your own head, for lack of a better way to describe it. If you're playing, if you're playing basketball or you're playing football, there's very little time where where you're sitting and thinking and with the potential to overanalyze what you're doing. And obviously it's such a finely tuned, set of activities that you have to perform under pressure. Right. And so can you talk a little bit about how you dealt with that, or how you feel like why you were able to be so successful with that in terms of managing the nerves and managing your ability to focus in? Because that's one of the things that I think sets apart guys who have success in all sports, but in golf especially, the guys who can kind of block out those distractions and really focus on the one shot that they have to hit at the moment. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I think what you're trying to get, like, basketball, it's a very reactionary sport, right?
For sure.
I mean, there's so much stuff that could go on in any given second or moment. And obviously, but hopefully all the practice and stuff, like the motion and the offense and the stuff like that, that's already ingrained in you. You don't really have to think about it. You just do it. You know what to do. But you still have to react to it. Whereas golf, there's no really reaction to anything. I mean, you react to the shot you just hit more than you react to anything. So there's a lot of prep. So what I like to do is, there is a lot of downtime. So I kind of look at it. You're out on the golf course for 5, on tour, the average round's like almost 5 hours, right? So you're out there for 5 hours. I think you actually only have to think for about an hour at the most of that. So between shots, while you're walking or while the other guys are hitting, I would like to. That's why I always had a caddy that, for me, was a good jokester, like to tell stories, things like that. Kind of get your mind away from it, and that always helped me a tremendous amount. When I had a guy that was always talking about golf or what we're going to do here on this next shot, I'm like, we're not even there yet. How do you know what we're going to do? We're 200 yards away from it. How do we know?
That's funny.
So for me, it was like, all right, when you got that 2 minutes to prepare and hit your shot, that's when I'm putting all my focus, and then hopefully hit a great shot, walk away, and we can talk about, what we're going to eat tonight, or what we're going to do tomorrow, or off day, or something like that. So that was something I always really strive for. And then when stuff got heated, and I talk to my caddy all the time, like, hey, try to read my face or my emotions, and if you feel like I'm tense or something, tell me a joke, get me. Try to do something to get me to relax. And so I had a guy for 10 years, and he was really good at it. And I always told my guy, I would try to be honest with him, like, hey, I might yell at you after I hit a shot, but don't take it personally. It's just I'm reacting to what just happened, not to what you did or what happened and stuff. So I remember at the Memorial one year, we were in the last group on Saturday, so I played really well Thursday, Friday, and got in the last group. And number 6 is over water and stuff, and the pin was back left, and we were kind of in between clubs. And Andy Sutton was his name, and or is his name, he's still. And we're kind of just talking about the shot real quick, and he's like, "Well, I think it's a 6-iron or whatever," and I was like, "Well, I think it's a 7-iron. I'll just hit it over here. It'll get me over the water, but we don't need to go at the pin. There's no need." He's like, "No, I think it's a 6-iron's perfect. You go right at it. You got a little bit of room behind it. No big deal. But it's one of those greens you can't go over. If you go over it, then you got no chance. So it's just you won't be able to get the next shot on the green because of the slope and everything." So I hit the shot, and it's going. I took the 6-iron, and I, hit it, and it flew the green, but everybody behind the green didn't even move. They just kind of looked over their heads, and the ball went behind them. And I kind of flung the club back at him. I told you it was a 7-iron. He goes, "Well, you didn't tell me you were going to hit it solid." Just picked up the club and walked away. So even though I was pissed, it got me back into the moment. Like, hey, we talked about it. We agreed to it. I'm the one that hit the shot, not him. But but that's where the caddy became like, I didn't have my caddy read the greens or anything. I just had him help with the yardage, wind direction, maybe, what his thoughts were with the club. But I mean, ultimately I had to hit the shot. But just somebody to keep me relaxed. And the more relaxed I got, the better I played. And obviously there's time you had to be serious and, get down to it. But so in the course of a 5-hour round, maybe an hour of it is where you have to be totally focused.
And did you use sort of that same philosophy then in between rounds during tournaments? So when you're, you finish a round, or you kind of do the same thing, you're just trying to get away from sort of what you're doing in the tournament, and have dinner and just enjoy yourself and relax, and not really focus on the next day's round? Or how did you approach that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, and over the years, as I played more, I would hang out with the caddies more, because they would just go out and have a good time. Like everybody knows, the caddies like to drink, so going out with them, we go to the bar or whatever. But it got my mind away from it, and it wasn't like I was drinking heavily or drinking a lot. I mean, a lot of the times I wasn't even drinking. It was just being around guys that didn't, they're just telling stories about their lives and how they got to the tour and all this, but telling the stories. But it got my mind away from what I was doing. So even though it might have been around golf related, but it was away from that tournament or whatever is, one of them was, a guy telling a story about this one guy, how crazy he was about his lawn, how he loved it manicured perfect, but he always had a barbecue during one of the events. So some of the other caddies and stuff would go grab divots from the tournament, and then when he was inside looking out the window, they would have somebody fake swing a club, and then they would throw the divot. And the guy came out with a shotgun going to shoot him,
That's hilarious.
But so like that kind of stuff, just kind of, get your mind away from it. Go to movies. Towards the last 8-9 years, I became into wine, so I found a couple guys that we go out and we go to the local wine bar or something, or find some tastings and just go talk about wine, or go find stuff like that to do, just to get away from it, get your mind off of it. And I didn't like to go home and like study it, and I would reflect it in my own mind, and maybe it would take me an hour or two to kind of get out of it. Like if we finished at 1 or 2, by like 3 or 4, I would kind of start to, you would start to unwind a little bit. I'm sure like when you played, it would kind of be the same way.
Yeah, you
and I always struggled when we played up until dark. It would take me, if we'd finish it like in the summer, especially like 8, 9, or 10 at night, if we had a delay or something and you finish, it would be lucky 1 o'clock before I could fall asleep, even though we'd have to get up at 4 or 5 to go get ready to play first thing in the morning. So it's just hard to get down, but it would take a couple hours. But I'd always try to get away.
So you wouldn't say that you're like Bryson at all, right? That goes and studies the game like 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, right?
No. I would, like maybe at the British, the Masters, maybe the US Open, like the majors, would I go home and maybe watch the golf, but just because you're trying to learn more about the course and stuff, and because the coverage was on for so long.
Yeah.
Especially like at Augusta, they had a local channel that would just, show like 4 or 5 of the holes all day long, and so you could get up and turn on the TV and watch the 5th hole all day, and so you kind of learn, and so you're watching to see how the ball is reacting, how it's breaking. And same thing at the British, we'd wake up and just turn on the Golf One. That's most of the time where you stayed. They had BBC 1, 2, 3, and the golf was always on all 3 channels. So you didn't have a choice.
I was gonna say that was the only thing you had to watch, right?
Yeah, it's the only thing you could have. Or sometimes if they had the Ashes on, the cricket game where they played for 5 days and they called it a draw. But anyway, so you took that opportunity to learn about the course, see how the stuff was, how it was reacting and playing. But other than that, I would just get totally away. I wasn't a big studier of the game. Now, when I was younger, I would read a lot of books. I found the history of it fascinating, like the story, like Ben Hogan and those guys, and what they had to do just to put food on the table, and how different it was than what it is now, for sure.
So here's a question that I want to throw at you. What's your favorite course that you've ever played? And then 2, is there a course out there in the world somewhere that you haven't played that you would have liked to or would like to play at some point?
So my favorite course, I love St. Andrews. It's not necessarily my favorite tournament course, but just to play it's something special. Obviously, being the home of golf, the history of it, it's just such a unique venue. Obviously, if you've been there, like they have double, other than 1, 18, and 17, all the greens share. So, it's just a unique way to play the game. It's obviously different style than what we're used to over here with the links. I like Pebble Beach, but it's more for the views and where you're at. It's not necessarily the golf course. And the golf course is good. Don't get me wrong, but my course I wanted to play. I go back to favorite course, and then Royal County Down in Ireland is a great golf course too. We played it a day. It was like 65 degrees, no wind, and I still couldn't break par. And this is back in the mid 2000s, so when I was playing really well, and it was just a really hard golf course. And there was like 8 of us pros there, and not many guys shot under par. So that was a very different. Every shot was blind. All you saw was dunes, and you're like, where do you go? And the caddy's like telling you, go here, and you're like, really? It's like, yeah, hit it there, and you're like, okay. But obviously, the more you play it, the more you would know. But I haven't played Pine Valley, and everybody raves about that. So hopefully, I get a chance to play that. And also, I've heard Nova Scotia up in very eastern part of Canada has some great golf courses. So I think that'd be a fun little trip to get away sometime.
There you go. That'd be a good family vacation.
Yeah. Only in the summer though, when it's like 50.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think it's not a good Christmas trip. I don't think you might probably want to stay away from there in December.
But maybe your coach from Kent State would want you to play in the snow up there in the time,
True.
All right. So one of the things that is interesting about professional athletes is that you retire far earlier from your craft than most people do. So as you got to the time where your golf career was going to end, can you talk a little bit about the transition from being a full-time tour player into retirement? And then I know you have a couple of different things going on. You already mentioned one with the wine, and we'll talk a little bit about that and your foundation as well. But can you just talk about the transition from a mental standpoint, from a lifestyle standpoint, from something that you've done for your entire life, and then suddenly, again, you're not doing it to the same level that you were before?
Yeah, I mean, it's, as any athlete goes through, it's not an easy transition, and it's always a difficult decision. I mean, it took a couple years for me to finally it set in, and it was actually Candace, my wife, was like, all right, you either got to go all in or you're out. Like, it's basically, she was the one, because I didn't know anything. I mean, that was what I knew. I just knew to play golf, and that's what I did. And and there's several friends that now are going through the same process, and I saw them a few weeks ago. It's just like, hey guys, you just got to make the decision. You're either all in or you're out. And Candace was right. It's just, it's definitely not an easy decision. And Jay Cutler said it perfectly. Like, if your heart's not in it for competitively, you're not going to be any good. And he's right, because you got to love it because you got to go out and put the work in each and every day to get better. Because if not, everybody else is doing that. So, but yeah. So since I made the decision, it's been great. Obviously, kids have been at a great age to keep you busy. Like I said, I got a 6th grader and a 5th grader, so they're in a bunch of activities to be able to be there for all their activities and sporting events, and to help them with school. It's been a lot of fun, and I missed a lot of that when they were younger. So to be able to do that now has been fantastic. I helped my son on his AAU team with the coach, so I helped coach that. So it's been a fantastic transition, like you said, into several other things now. So it's been a good process, and I'm looking forward to the next many years ahead.
Do your kids golf or no?
My son plays a little bit. He played a few tournaments this summer, so I think he's starting to like it a little bit more. But he likes to run, he likes to ski, he likes football and basketball. So he's one of those where golf kind of gets. When he's really young, he would hit balls for 10 minutes and then he just wanted to run. So, but I think eventually he'll get into it more and more. He's at that age now where the problem is where we are, there's just not that he hasn't his friends. They don't play golf, so I think they play all these other sports. So
he'll start getting into it when he can beat you.
Which I don't. What's that?
He'll start getting into it when he can beat you, right? That's
and he's gotten a lot better, and I saw a lot of improvement in him this summer. So I think once he had the bug for a little bit this summer, but once school kicked in, he lost it because he was seeing his buddies every day. They go after school, they get together and play basketball or something. So, it's hopefully they will, and I think they will with time. But it's one of those. It's a great game that you can play for the rest of your life, and that's what makes golf so unique. Because all three of us could go out and have a good match and competitive. We can make a game where, that's the great thing about it, is that we can figure out a game, and I can give you 2, you give me 3 or whatever shots, and we can have some fun. Whereas there's no way I get better to go out on the court with you. You just kicked my butt. So, and that's what's unique about it. So, so hopefully they'll pick it up more as they age.
Yeah, it's amazing. I think, the thing that I take from what you just said is that, you just think about the access that you had as a kid that got you into the game, that your son just doesn't have the same access. The course isn't in his backyard. Yeah. And even though it may be, 10 minutes down the street, just that is enough to sort of change the trajectory of what kids like to do. It's kind of amazing how your circumstance sometimes can play into what you end up doing.
Yeah, and I didn't watch a lot of golf when he was little. We watched a lot of football and basketball. So what's he want to do? He wants to play football and basketball. So
absolutely.
And I think, and that's the ground. He would come out with me to play every now and then, golf or every now and then. But what did we do when we come home? We'd watch, Monday Night Football or whatever, and so that's the stuff he's kind of geared towards.
Let's shift gears and talk a little bit about the great things that you're doing with your foundation there in Kent for the kids in the community. I think that it's something that people need to hear about, because it's something that is just a tremendous thing that you're providing for for the community. So can you talk a little bit about that, Ben?
Yeah, I would be happy to. So, about 6-7 years ago, we started the Ben Curtis Family Foundation with my wife, Candace. And what we do is that we feed kids throughout the school year on long weekends, so 10 times throughout the school year, where we give them food. We call them birdie bags, and where it consists of 9 meals, 6 snacks, and then plus they get a little toiletry kit that has toothpaste, toothbrushes, soap, shampoo, and conditioner. So so right now we're currently feeding 1,000 kids in the Kent city schools in that program. Plus we have a pantry at the middle school and high school. So it becomes a little bit, as they age, handing the bags out to the kids, it kind of becomes an issue. But the pantry has worked really, really well, where the kids can come in, and we have a point person at each of the schools that is able to help the kids shop, and they come in and get the stuff that they need. So we do that, and then obviously that's the main program. But then we also have a very merry dinner coming up here in a couple weeks, where we've got over 500 people coming in, 509, to the Kent State University Hotel. We'll come in, they'll get a buffet dinner, and then the kids will get a chance to get a picture taken with Santa. They'll get cookies with Mrs. Claus, and then also the families will get to take home a meal for Christmas to prepare. So they either get a choice of ham or turkey, and then with all the sides of stuffings and potatoes and veggies and stuff as well. And then each kid will get several gifts. So they get like a want and a need. So the want might be a video game or a certain pair of shoes or something like that. And a need is, boots or hat and gloves, coats, stuff of that nature. So, so it's going to be a busy couple weeks. But, and obviously this time of the year and with these families, this is the most difficult time because their friends or other family members are having a great Christmas, get lots of joy and stuff, and this is a very stressful time for them. So to be able to do this has been a lot of fun and a rewarding experience for sure.
How did you make the decision that was the direction that you wanted to go with your family foundation? Because obviously there are lots of different charities and avenues and ways that you could have gone with that. And so how did you come to the realization that helping right there in the Kent community was going to be the best decision for what you were trying to accomplish?
Well, it basically boiled down, like, one, we saw a program on TV where one of the Dateline or 2020, one of them shows, we were on the road. They were just following a family around during the last recession, and the family, the parents lost their jobs, and they obviously had several kids, and they were just following around like, hey, how are you dealing with this and stuff like that. And they were going to looking for jobs. Between looking for jobs, they were going down to the local agency trying to get food stamps so they can go put food on the table. And we just looked more into it that way. Obviously, there's so many different ways you can go, but what we really liked about mostly was that if you could only give a few dollars, $5, or if you could give $5,000 or $50,000, you're going to make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So for $5, is basically what it costs for us to put one bag together. So if you can only give us $5, you're making a difference in someone's life. So, and that was the majority of the reason. As you all know, Kent is a very diverse community, obviously with the university in town. So you got a lot of people from different backgrounds, and different financial levels as well. So we just felt like, hey, if someone can only do a few bucks and make a difference, that's great. And that was probably the biggest reason why we chose that.
Yeah, I think it's tremendous. Again, people out there sometimes, you think about your own home community sometimes, and, you don't always perceive the fact that there are people in need right in your own neighborhood. And I know here where I live in Strongsville, we have a food bank, and, we don't often think of people here in our community struggling, but there are people that do that. And I think it's a testament to you and to Candace that you guys have put that together and have been able to have the kind of impact that you've been able to make on the community. And I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there, whether they thank you directly or not, that are very, very appreciative of what you've been able to do. Talk a little bit about what you have going with your golf academy, maybe first, and then second, what you're trying to do with your wine label. Just touch on each of those a little bit.
So obviously, when I stopped playing golf, the foundation keeps us very busy, but let's be honest, Candace is the brainchild behind that. She does the majority of the work there, but obviously help out, and we try to do as much as I can with that. But for financial reasons, I kind of wanted to do something with golf, and I still love the game, and still love being a part of it. So I wanted to do something to help kids in that regard. So I started last spring. I started the Ben Curtis Golf Academy, and so it's geared towards kids, 12 to 18 years old that are looking to kind of do what I did. That's their dream, and that's their goal. Ultimate goal is to go out and play on the PGA Tour. So. Or if it's a kid that just wants to get better and maybe get a college golf scholarship somewhere so he can go study to be a doctor or something. But it's just to help the kids, and it's more than just how to hit shots. It's, I helped a girl last year, and I'm still working with her, and going through the recruiting process, and and what that all entails, and help with that, helping them and guiding them, like, maybe they should. Some students, not everybody's geared for Division I. Some kids, it could be Division II. Help them with tournament selections and guide them in that direction. Also help with the mental side and and things like that. And obviously, if they want the physical work and the mental work, we can get professionals for that as well. So I just wanted to do something like that. So, and it's unique because as you travel around the country playing, you know, you go to all these warm places, Florida, Texas, Arizona, California. You know, every other country club's got a golf academy, but up here you don't see that. But but a lot of people don't realize how golf rich this area is. I mean, there's a lot of history in Ohio, obviously, with a lot of great players, but not only that, but great golf courses and colleges and universities that have great programs and that people don't even realize. So I think it's that for me, it's been a lot of fun. I mean, it started off slow. I think I had about 8 students last year. And then hopefully I want to get 10 core people that I can help. And so, yeah, I spend, you know, 10 to 15 hours a week with a lot of these kids and just being able to help them with course management and going through that. So it's been a lot of fun. So it's not just about how you hit shots. So it's a lot of it's just talking and, you know, setting goals and trying to set a path. You know, we not necessarily, hey, we're going to change this so you can hit it better tomorrow. It's, hey, we're going to change your mind first, because I think that's the biggest part of it. I think what all great athletes have and what all great players have is they have a very strong head. And one, they understand their game more than anybody else, and they know their limitations. Not everybody can hit it 320 yards like Bubba Watson, right? So to be able to know that you can't do that it's a powerful thing. So, but you can also understand, hey, if I hit it here, I'm really good from this distance, and this is going to make me score better, so I'm going to hit it to that distance versus I'm going to try to hit it as far as I can and put me in a spot that I don't know how to hit it out of. So just that kind of stuff, and it's been great. So I'm slowly expanding, and then a couple years ago, switched gears. So a couple years ago, started with a partner, and we drank a lot of wine together and told a lot of stories. And he knew somebody in the wine business, and he's like, "Why don't we start our own wine label?" So we interviewed a bunch of different winemakers, and we fell in love with Rich Barducci. He makes great wines at a reasonable price. He was in our price point that we wanted. So we put together a couple wines. We got a Chardonnay and a red wine blend. So it's called Fairway and Vines, if you haven't heard of it. It's made out of Mendocino County. Yeah, and it's just been a fun project so far. We're up to 2,000 cases right now, and we're in 9 states, including Ohio. So we're kind of slowly expanding that as well. So even though we've only been selling it for 15 months, we're now we've been working on it for 3 or 4 years. So yeah, that's been a fun project, and each day learning a lot of new things about wine, just wine in general, but just about that side of the business as well.
Yeah, I think it's neat what you're doing in that you have sort of 3 different things that you know can occupy you and can challenge you in different ways. And obviously you still have, with the academy, you have your connection to golf, and you're able to share all the things that you've learned over the course of your career with kids who are coming up and following that similar path to what you did. And I know, to your point that you talked about earlier, when you were talking about your sort of recruiting process and going through, and you didn't really know what to expect or what you should be doing or how to go about it. And so the fact that you can pass on your knowledge there, I think, has got to give you a great deal of satisfaction. And obviously, you know, you're being challenged in other ways with the foundation, and then with, you know, with the wine, you're able to, you know, really tap into, you know, a different side of you than was there when you were playing. And so I think that that's something that, again, anybody that's out there that is, you know, looking to retire. And again, especially when you retire at a young age, I think when you find things that you can be passionate about, it tends to make things go a lot smoother. So I'm glad that things are really going well, and you've got a lot of good, interesting things going on. And we want to just, first of all, say thanks, Ben, for giving us your time tonight. It's been a pleasure to talk to you. And although, again, you're not necessarily in the wheelhouse of the guys that we normally talk to about basketball, wanted to have you on as a fellow Kent Stater and kind of just pick your brain. And I think there's a lot of things that are applicable to your situation that people can take and apply in the basketball world for sure. So before we get out of here, want to give you an opportunity to share with people how they can get in touch with you if they'd like to do that. And then if there's anything else that we didn't touch on tonight, go ahead and share that as well before we get out of here.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you, Mike. Yeah, so first of all, I just talk a little bit about the foundation. If you want to, if you want to get online, it's the Ben Curtis Foundation.org. Everything's on there. If you want to make a donation, or if you want to help or volunteer, or want to get in touch with how businesses can help us grow and expand our reach into more communities. So that's our next step. And so, yeah, just get on the Ben Curtis Family or BenCurtisFoundation.org. And all the information's there. There's email, phone number, and things like that. So, and then obviously the Ben Curtis Golf Academy, just have a website. It's got all the information on there, BenCurtisAcademy.com. You can also reach me by phone at 234-303-14 or 1514. And then also by email, info@BenCurtisAcademy.com. So if you have any kids that are interested in getting some teaching and coaching, or need help going through the recruiting process, like you say, or to get better, or just want to have a chat, I'd be happy to do so. And then obviously the wine, we don't have a website or anything, but just check with your local wine retailer, and they can get in touch with the right people to get a hold of it. So, and that's Fairway and Vine. So, yeah. So, Mike, thank you. Appreciate for coming on. I mean, I played basketball through high school, so anytime I can get on and just rehash it a little bit with some basketball is a lot of fun. And I don't know if you knew this, but you didn't do good enough research, probably not then. But in high school, I don't know if you did this when you were in high school. Did you go to Strongsville?
I went to Strongsville, yes.
Did you guys get to play at the old Richfield Coliseum or anything like that?
I never played at the Coliseum.
So it was weird because I don't know if they still do it, but when we were my junior and senior year, so we played at Richfield. Okay. And in the afternoon, and then they gave you tickets, so we played
Yep, you go to the Cavs game after, yep.
And then you go to the Cavs game, so played there, played the last year at Richfield, and then the first year that they moved into, well, then it was the Gun, but
right, yep.
It's still the Gun. It's still the Gun. That's supposed to be clear here.
Yeah, it's still the Gun. That's how I always refer it, and
it's like Progressive Field is still the Jake to me, right?
Yep. Yeah, exactly. So my high school, we had a lot of memories, and my high school coach, he took us seniors up when they got the Gun, took us upstairs. We had lobster and mussels and all kinds of. He treated, and we didn't know, we were farm boys, right? We just wanted our chicken or steaks, you know.
That's right. Yep, I hear you. So that's funny. Well, Ben,
that was a lot of fun. And,
that's very cool.
And it's a unique experience for me. It wasn't like you guys got to play in big stadiums like that, so that was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun. I had a great time at Kent. Really enjoyed my time there. Really, had an opportunity to go and play in a lot of cool places against a lot of good players and with a lot of good players, and wouldn't change any of it. I feel very fortunate that I had an opportunity to play at Kent and have the kind of career that I did. And so, again, Kent State, just like I'm sure it is for you, it's always going to be a big part of who I am, simply because of you're so impressionable and at that particular time in your life. So what Ben shared there for our audience, all the things that he shared in terms of how you can get in contact with him. We're going to put all that into the show notes so people will be able to click on there and get to, if you want to help Ben out with the foundation, or you want to get signed up for the academy, or you want to find some wine, you'll be able to do that through the show notes. And Ben, again, we just want to say thanks, and to everyone out there, we will catch you on our next episode. Thanks.
Hello, hoop heads. This is Alan Stein Jr. My new book, Raise Your Game, High Performance Secrets from the Best of the Best, will be available from all major book retailers on January 8th. Raise Your Game takes a rare peek behind the curtain and shows you what the top coaches and players in the game do during the unseen hours. I share their routines, rituals, and habits, as well as proven strategies that you can implement with your team immediately. If you want to maximize your coaching impact and influence, order your copy today at raiseyourgamebook.com. And in the spirit of the holidays, if you're interested in purchasing multiple copies for your coaching staff, team, or program, I am offering several bonuses, like a 40% discount, signed copies, and a private video call with your team. But you'll have to place your order before Christmas. Once again, go to raiseyourgamebook.com for everything you need.
If you're looking for a great way to spend the holidays playing some basketball, please join us at one of our Head Start basketball holiday camps on December 27th and 28th, 2018. We'll have a camp at Hoop Guru Courthouse in Hinckley and also at St. Paschal Baylon School in Highland Heights. The Head Start basketball holiday camps will emphasize the fundamentals of basketball with individual attention given to each camper. You'll improve your basketball skills and have a ton of fun at the Head Start basketball holiday camp. To register or get more information, please visit our website, www.headstartbasketball.com. Head Start Basketball's Player Development Academy offers Cleveland area players a unique opportunity to improve their basketball skills. Regardless of a player's age, skill level, or position, training with Head Start Basketball will elevate your game to the next level. Do you want to improve your ball handling, become a better shooter, or develop into a more skilled, confident player? Our Academy classes offer training that's designed to do just that. Our training sessions are innovative and will have you learning skills that are transferable to actual games. We have 4 different class skill levels for boys and girls, ages 4 and up. All Player Development Academy classes will be held at the Strongsville Recreation Center. For more information or to get registered, please visit www.headstartbasketball.com. Thanks for listening to the Hoop Heads podcast, brought to you by Head Start Basketball.